All right, today we're going to be taking a look at filling out a college application with some tips as well as things to look out for. Every school does things a little differently, but for the most part, the process is pretty standard across different universities. Today, I'm going to walk you through the application process at the University of Louisville. With that being said, if you're filling out an application for a different school and you come across something that you don't understand or something that's different, make sure you save your application and then reach out to us so we can help. There are two different methods to apply at U of L. The first one is called Take Flight. This application is done through U of L's website. The other is through a company called Common App. The application that we are submitting today will be done through the Take Flight application, though the information that they require should be the same as the Common App. The first step is to go to apply.louisville.edu/register/apply now. Here, we're going to make an account that we will use to submit our application. The first question is asking if you're a citizen of any country within the European Union. For most of us, the answer is going to be no. But if you happen to be a citizen of one of these countries, make sure you choose yes, because you'll run into problems later if the information on your application is incorrect. Now it's going to start asking for our personal information. The first box is for your email. I'm going to put mine for this example. Also, make sure you have access to this email because you will need to verify it, and you'll receive all the messages from school regarding this application through this email. Next, we're going to enter our legal first, middle, and last name. If you have two last names, make sure that you put them in how they show up on any official documents you have, like a passport or a birth certificate. Below, we have a place to mark if we have a preferred name that's different from your legal name. Mark yes if this is you and insert your preferred name. For mine, I'm going to mark no because my preferred name and my legal name are the same. Under that, there is a place to mark if any of the information you'll be using for your application is under a name different than your current legal name. A reason this might be the case is if you legally change your last name for any reason, but mostly it's for marriage or if you were adopted. If that doesn't apply to you, just select no. Next, put your birth month, day, and year in the boxes provided. And then we're going to put our cell number in the box below that. If you don't have a home phone, you can enter your cell number twice, or you can leave the second box blank. It won't really matter. And then select yes to make sure that you will receive text messages about your application, different deadlines, and anything else that they need to let you know. This next section is going to ask what your application type is. Most of us are going to click first time in college after high school student. Even if you've taken a couple college credit courses in high school, that's great, but you still qualify as a freshman, so you're going to want to click first time in college after high school. Next, it's going to ask if you're applying to an online program. U of L has several programs that are exclusively online. You never go in person. You never live at the dorms. That's an option for people who have a busy schedule, or if you just like one of those programs and you prefer to stay at home. If you click on the red text that says online program, it'll link you to a page that will give you more information about those programs and what you'll really be getting out of those programs. So if you'd like, you can click that and get more information. I'm going to go ahead and click no because I feel like most of us are going to want the full college experience and we're going to be going in person. Next, we're going to click yes. This is just you acknowledging that you know that this application is not complete. You're simply creating an account and you still need to apply. So they just want to make sure that you know that. So you're going to click yes here and then click submit. Awesome. So it says, Dear Hunter, thanks for taking the first step in applying to U of L. So what you're going to do now is log into your email that we put at the beginning of creating this account, and they're going to send you a code. You're going to need this code for the next step, so make sure you have access to the email. Get that, write it down somewhere, and then we'll continue on to the next step. All right, if you have the code, let's go ahead and click log in and finish your application, this red box right here. So now for our password, we're gonna go ahead and enter the code that they sent to our email. When you click log in, it's gonna pop up with a new box that says temporary PIN. Just enter the same code again, and then we're gonna verify our account by putting in our birthday. So then do your month, do the day and the year, and then we're gonna click login again. Now it wants us to make a new password. So make whatever password you want. Make sure to write it down, save it in your notes app, something, but it has to have one lowercase letter, one capital letter, one number, and it has to be 12 characters long. So awesome, welcome to the Take Flight application. We're gonna scroll down and it should show your freshman application that you've started. It should say in progress. You'll see on mine, there's actually 2, but that's because I'm a current student and I've already filled in an application in the past. So ignore that, just click on the freshman application. Yes, now we'll click open application. So it says it already knows our application type because we selected that. So we're gonna click continue. Okay, here we go. This is gonna be our personal information. So it should fill some of this out with the information that we put in the account creation stage. So I'm just gonna put my prefix. It's already got my names. I don't have a suffix, but if you're a junior, senior, anything like that, make sure to put it. If you have preferred names, you can put it in that box. Okay, so now we're gonna scroll down to address. This one has mine pre-filled out, probably because I've already have an account with them. If yours is not filled out, just go ahead and put the address that you live at. It's going to ask for the actual address itself, city, state, and the zip code. It's also going to ask for a mailing address. For 99% of us, that's going to be the same. So you'll just enter all of that information a second time, double check it, make sure you spelled everything correct because you want to make sure if they send you something, you actually get it. It has your email. It's going to have your phone numbers. Once again, if they don't have this filled in for you, go ahead and fill it in. Mine has already been filled in. And then it's got the yes checked because I do want to receive information from them. And then next it's going to ask about what it calls biographical information. So you're going to put in your legal sex, which for me is male. And then you get to select your pronouns. So the difference between a legal sex and pronouns is you want to put the sex you were born with under legal sex. Even if that's not how you identify, even if you prefer to be called by something else, make sure for this one you put the right one because it helps them look you up in government databases and stuff like that. They need to be sure of what it is. As for pronouns, you put what you prefer. So if you prefer one that's not necessarily the same as your biological sex, go ahead and select that here. Next, we're going to enter your birthday if it's not already filled in, your birth country, and your native language. We'll click continue to go to the next page. All right. Do you currently live in the United States? We're going to click yes. And what state do you live in? Kentucky. Now, if you live across the river in Indiana, put that. But if you live here, we're going to put Kentucky. Then it's going to ask when you moved here or like when you began living in this state. For me, I lived here almost my whole life, so I'm going to put February of 1999. And then, are you currently a citizen of the United States? So there's going to be 3 options that we can select. There's yes, and I'm only a United States citizen. There's yes, and I also have a citizenship in another country. And then there's no, I'm only a citizen of another country. Now, depending on which one of these boxes you select, there's going to be different information that it asks you below. So choose which one fits for you. Mine is yes and only the U.S. For several of you all, it's going to be the same. And maybe there's some of us where it's no or it's yes and a citizen of another country. Just click that and then make sure to fill out whatever information they ask you below. As you can see here, if you click yes in dual citizenship, it'll ask you the other country. It'll ask you if you're a legal permanent resident here in the United States. And then it'll ask for your United States social because you still have one if you're a citizen here. If you click no, it's going to ask your country's citizenship. It's going to ask if you are a legal permanent resident. And then it's going to ask a couple different questions. It's going to ask if you currently hold a valid U.S. visa or if you have deferred action for childhood arrival status. If you have one of those, click yes. If you don't, click no. And then it's going to ask, do you intend to apply for a new or different U.S. visa? For some people who come on a traveling visa and then they want to switch to student, they have to change visa statuses, and that's a whole process. If that's you, click yes. If no, then click no. I'm going to go back up here and change mine to yes and only the US because that is actually my status. And then I'm going to put in my social, which I have blurred out because I don't want my identity to get stolen. Not saying you guys would steal it, but just to be safe. Next is going to ask, are you Hispanic or Latino? If you're not Adelante, I'm just going to make a crazy assumption that you probably are, and you'll click yes. But this is really a self-identifying question, so you can put how you identify. You don't have to necessarily claim something that you don't want to claim. It's all about demographics for the college. And then the same thing on this, it's going to ask you, which group do you consider yourself to be a member? So you might think to yourself, like, I don't consider myself black, I don't consider myself white, I'm Hispanic. But when it comes to these type of demographics, they're not really looking at Latin heritage. They're looking more how you identify based on your race. So select whichever one that you do identify with more. If you don't have a preference, just pick one. It doesn't really affect any other parts of your application. It's just going to help the school keep track of the demographics of their students. All right, we're moving on to educational plans. So it's going to ask you which college or school you want to apply to for your desired major. Now, one thing that a lot of students don't know before they come to a place like the University of Louisville is it's actually made up of a bunch of different colleges. There's the College of Arts and Sciences, there's the College of Business, there's the School of Music. So depending on what your major is going to be, you're actually going to be applying not just to U of L, but you're applying to the individual college or school within U of L. So one thing this kind of requires you to know is what major you think you're going to want. Now, a lot of people go into school and they don't know what major they want to do. It takes them maybe a year, 2 years to kind of figure that out. But you kind of have to apply to one of these schools regardless. So I would say if you don't know at all, then I would apply to the College of Arts and Sciences because their requirements to get in are basically at the lowest level that U of L has. Now, if you go to the business school, if you are trying to do engineering, any of these other higher ranked colleges within U of L are going to be more strict on your ACT scores, on GPA, and they don't let in as many people. So if you are trying to do those things, then go ahead and click those. But if you're not, you're going to want to make sure to click Arts and Sciences. And then if you decide to change your mind later, and let's say you want to go to one of those, or let's say you just completely change and you want to do nursing or anything else, you can always go and talk to your advisor and they can change your major in the computer. So let's go ahead and pick one, and then we'll move on. When do you intend to start taking classes at U of L? So we're going to put fall 2025, because if you're a senior this year, that's when you would start. And then it's going to ask if you want to do full-time or part-time. I don't know your plans. Maybe part-time is something you want to do. It definitely is better for people who have to work and necessarily can't take off for school, but it takes longer. So instead of going for 4 years, you would end up going longer depending on how many hours you take. Full-time, however, is intended for you to finish in 4 years if you take 15 credit hours a semester. So I think the majority of people are going to click full-time. That's what I will put on this example. All right, next it's going to ask if you want to put your school counselor's information in. This isn't really required. It's something that can help you if you want to keep your counselor in the loop about anything that happens with your application. If you go to a school where you haven't really interacted with your counselor and you don't know how much of a help they would be, you can just leave it blank. Or if you don't want to actually go through the effort of finding out all their information, same thing. There's really no problem in leaving it blank. If you have a counselor who's been really helpful and who you think needs some of this information, then you can go ahead and put it here because it will forward them some of the information about what happens with your application, and that might be helpful. All right, so now we are at the self-reported test scores and GPA. Here's the thing about U of L. It is test score optional, which means you don't have to list your ACT, SAT, or even your GPA when you're applying. What I will say is that if you have taken it and you have a certain score, then you're going to want to put that because it will automatically help you get in. Now, if one of these areas, maybe you didn't do the best, maybe you weren't feeling well that day, you can go ahead and choose not to put that information on here. And you could put all of it, you can put none of it, or you can choose which ones to put. So the rule of thumb that I've been given from U of L is if you have a 20 or over on your ACT, you're going to want to put it. If you have a below, you can leave it off or you can put it. The choice is totally yours. It's just whatever you think is right for your situation. If you've taken the SAT instead of the ACT, or maybe you took both, they say if you got over a 1080, you definitely want to put it. If you got below a 1080, that's when, if you want to omit it, that's your choice. So 1080 is the cutoff there. And then your anticipated high school GPA. This can be hard if you don't know how you're going to do in your classes this semester. But what I would do is look up your overall GPA from freshman year to now. And whatever that GPA is, cumulative, you're going to put that. Next, it's going to ask if you're taking any AP classes. If you are, or if you have taken them in the past, then you're going to go ahead and click yes. If you haven't, or if you don't even know what that is, then the answer is probably no. And then it's going to ask, are you planning to enter college with college credit earned in high school? So if you have taken a dual credit course through JCTC or another college that's allowed you to get college credit while you were in high school, you're going to click yes. If the answer is no, click no. We'll fill in more information about the schools later if you have done that. All right, educational history. So this is where we're going to enter the information about our schools. It's just telling you how to search for your school. Basically, don't use abbreviations and just search for the name of your school and it should pop up. It's pretty easy, especially if you went to school here in Kentucky. As you can see on mine, it has a couple different schools listed and they're already there. That's because I've already applied to U of L and they have this information saved in my file. But we're going to go ahead and click add new as if I had never done this before, and we're going to add my high school. All right, it's going to ask if the school you're adding is college or high school level. For the first one, let's go ahead and do high school. And now we're going to type out the name of our school. So my school was Owensboro High School. So I'm going to put Owensboro. I don't see it in the top one, so I'm going to put high. Okay, here it is. Owensboro High School in Owensboro, Kentucky. And then it's going to ask you what month and year that you started and what month and year that you're expected to graduate. Now, a lot of you haven't graduated yet, but usually in Kentucky, school ends in May, so you can just put May 2025. For me, mine was May 2015. All right, now if you have dual credit, you're going to want to click Add New again, and you're going to want to put in whatever college is giving you the dual credit. So if you're doing it through a program at JCTC, you would do that. If you're doing it through a program at Bellarmine, Sullivan, anything like that, then you would do it through that school. So it really just depends on how your dual credit works. But you will search them the same way. You'll click Add New. You're going to click College, and then you'll search for the school. Let's click Continue. Now it's going to ask about the courses you're taking this year. So if you're still in high school, which most of you are, you're going to click Yes. Now it's going to ask you what courses you are currently taking. The only kind of stipulations on this is if you're putting a math course, you're going to want to put exactly what course that you're taking. So you're going to want to put Algebra 1, Trigonometry, Pre-Calculus, whatever it is. Type it all the way out. Don't use any abbreviations. Don't just put math. And then if you're taking any kind of an AP course, you're going to put AP after the course name. So if it's an AP English, you're going to type in English and then put AP after it. If it's dual credit, you're going to want to type out the name of the course, how it shows up on the college transcript. So the example that they give here is if you're taking college algebra at JCTC, that class is called Math 150 JCTC. And so you're going to want to type that all the way out. Depending on what classes you're taking or through what college, that's going to be different. But just to make sure that that information is provided so that whoever looks over this application will be able to check what dual credit you're taking, and they'll be able to put those courses together. Okay, here's some additional information. So it's going to ask if you have a parent, guardian, or grandparent who graduated from U of L. If you do, click yes. If you don't, click no. Mine's no. And then it's going to ask what the highest level of education is that's been completed by any of your parents or legal guardians. So some of the options it might have are completed some college, college graduate. It might say no college. So you're just going to pick whichever one is the highest out of your parents or guardians. And then it's going to ask below, do you participate in a need-based program such as free and reduced lunch? There are other programs that would qualify you for this. So if you're not sure if you participate in one, you can click on the red text and it will take you to a list of all the programs that qualify. If you are a part of one of those, click yes. If you're not a part of one of those, just click no. And next, it's going to ask if you are okay with U of L sharing your academic records with KCTCS. So according to the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, schools aren't allowed to give out your information to just anybody. You have to always sign something or select something to allow them to share that information. So U of L has a program with KCTCS. So what that can do is if you complete a certain number of credits at U of L, you might be able to get your associate's degree even before you graduate, which could help you get a job while you're still in school. So if you are okay with that, then click I understand, and that will allow them to share that information. If you click no, I do not wish to participate, then they can't share your information, and they will not send that without your permission. So next, you're going to click no on are you a parent or guardian of a dependent under 18. And after that, it's going to ask if you want more information about disability-related accommodations. So schools, just like your high schools, are required to give certain accommodations to people with disabilities. If you have dyslexia, for example, you might need extra test time. If you have a hearing problem, you might need to sit closer to the front of class. So those are called reasonable accommodations, and schools are required to give you those. If you think you might need something like that, you can click yes on this box, and they will send you information about the different accommodations that U of L provides and how you can access those. Next, it's going to ask if you plan to participate in the UPS Metropolitan College Program, or if you're currently participating through JCTC. I'm not going to get too much into this. We might make another video about it. If you want more information, click on the red text. It will link you to that site, tell you all about the program. For the purpose of this application, I'm going to click no. And then it's going to ask if you work at any of these partner organizations. Most likely, you're not going to work at any of these, but if you scroll down, you'll see where it says, are you a dependent of any direct employee of the following? So if your parents or guardians work at any of these places, then you will select that. If not, just click none of these at the bottom. And below that, it's going to ask if you are a dependent of a veteran or a currently serving member of the U.S. military. So dependent just means that somebody claims you on their taxes, that they pay for over 50% of your living costs. Usually it's just a parent or guardian. And so if one of your parents or legal guardians is a member of the U.S. military or a veteran, you'll click that here. If not, click I am not a dependent. Then it's going to ask if you are a U.S. military member or if you're a veteran. You're going to click have never been in any branches. If you have turned 18 and you've signed up to be in the reserve, or if you've signed up for a military, then you can click that, but 99.9% of us are going to be no. Will you be using a Veteran Administration education benefits? So if one of your legal guardians is a veteran and they're using one of those benefits to pay for your school, then you're going to go ahead and click yes. If you don't have a parent or guardian who's a veteran, it's automatically a no. If you do have a parent or guardian who's a veteran, but they are not using any of their benefits, like a GI Bill, then you're going to click no as well. All right, let's click continue. Okay, disciplinary information. Now, I know that all of you are good kids and none of you have ever gotten in trouble for anything in your life, but we still have to fill this out. It's going to ask if you've ever been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor other than a traffic violation. They don't count that. If you got pulled over for speeding or a seatbelt, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for an actual criminal charge. Are any criminal charges currently pending against you? Once again, most of us are just going to be no's. Have you ever entered a plea of guilty, a plea of no contest, or some type of a plea under a First Offender Act? Like I said, I'm expecting all no's, but if that does apply to you, make sure you're honest, because that can void your application later if they find out you've lied about any of this information. Okay, and then the last one is, have you been expelled from high school for something other than academic performance? If you've ever had any problems at school that weren't academic that caused you to get expelled, you're going to click yes here. All right, now we're on the signature page. So you're just signing, saying that everything that you've entered so far is truthful. And instead of signing your name, what we're going to do is we're going to type our full name out. That counts as a signature. And we're going to click confirm. Now, this is the review page. If you don't have any errors that the computer could find, it's going to allow you to submit the application. For me, there are a couple of errors because I left the major blank and I left the college and program fields blank. I did that intentionally to show you what these errors would look like, but if you don't have any errors, it's just going to have a place for you to submit. Whenever you've reviewed all of your information and you're 100% positive that you've included everything that you want to include, you're going to submit that. When you do submit it, it's going to send you an email confirming that they received it and they will start to review your application. This can take some time. I don't know if they have an exact turnaround time to let you know when they'll be done, but if you check the email that you used to create the account, then they will send any updates there. If you feel like it's been an unusually long amount of time, you can always call the admissions office and you can ask them, and then they can take a look at your account and see if there's any kind of a problem or if they just haven't got around to it yet. But most of the time they get back to you in a pretty decent amount of time. All right, so that is everything with submitting an application to U of L. There will be a couple of next steps after that. They might ask you to send official transcripts from your guidance counselor's office to them. You're going to want to make sure that your guidance counselor sends those directly. They cannot come from you. Your school might have a process for doing that. Just ask your counselor whenever you've applied, and they might be able to send it to multiple schools at once. So wait till you've done your applications, and then you can have them send that out to all the schools that you apply to. But all right, thank you guys for sticking around. If you have any questions, anything I didn't answer, anything that was confusing or you're unsure about, just make sure that you click save on your application, and then just bring it to us and ask questions on Saturday, or if you just message us through the WhatsApp, we can set up a meeting time and we'll make sure to help you figure it out. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you soon.